Hey guys, it's Leo here, and I just want to start this video by saying how thankful I am of all the support you guys have been giving me. And it's kind of crazy to see how far I've grown without posting much of anything on YouTube. And I just want to use this video to address one of the most high requested topics, which I've been getting in my comments, which is how to start calisthenics as a complete beginner. And for those who are new to this, calisthenics is a form of fitness where you're using your body weight as resistance. And there are four main categories of calisthenics, which is weighted endurance, static, and freestyle calisthenics. And they're each unique in their own ways, and you're not limited to one pathway or the other. However, regardless of whichever pathway you want to take, I find that it is essential for you to build up a strong foundational base before pursuing those cool and advanced skills. I know this may sound like a bummer to some, but trust me, skipping these steps may lead to injury or even stagnated progression, which may discourage you from training completely. Now that you know why training the basics is important, let's go over the four main movements which make up all of calisthenics. So first, we have vertical pushing and vertical pulling, which means you're pushing and pulling while your body is vertical or near vertical to the ground. For example, a skill such as the handstand push-up would be considered a vertical pushing skill, while something like the one-arm pull-up would be considered a vertical pulling skill. On the flip side, we also have horizontal pushing and horizontal pulling, which means you're pushing and pulling where your body is horizontal or near horizontal in relation to the floor. For example, something like a planche would be a horizontal pushing skill, while a front lever would be a horizontal pulling skill. In order to gain complete and balanced strength while training calisthenics, it's important to implement all four of these movements into your routine. And I'll also be providing you with essential exercise from each of these categories later in the video, along with information about how to program your own routine and progress in calisthenics. As these topics can be quite long to fit into one video, I've tried my best to summarize each of them to help you guys get started off on the right foot. And if you guys want, I can also post more in-depth videos about each of these topics in the future. By the end of this video, you should have a basic calisthenics template to build upon, along with knowledge on how to personalize it to your current strength. Here I have a list of all the content which will be covered in this video, so you can easily refer back to it in the future. I'd also like to say that this video is a pretty long and detailed one, so feel free to take breaks and watch it multiple times as needed. Now before we start, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, Prozis. And for those of you who don't know, Prozis is the leading European retailer for sports nutrition, and I've personally been using supplements from Prozis for a while and also can attest for the quality and pricing of their products. In addition to supplements, they also have a large variety of products ranging from protein snacks, workout clothing, and even fitness gear. Prozis is essentially the Amazon for fitness enthusiasts, and you're bound to find something that will complement your training. Right now, if you use my exclusive code LEOWAYNE, you can save 10% off your order, and plus, depending on how much you spend, you can also receive free products with your order. And if that wasn't enough, Prozis is also currently having a sale of up to 50% off, which will stack with my code for free items. So head on over to prozis.com and check out their amazing selection of products. And once again, thank you to Prozis for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to use code LEOWAYNE to save 10% off your order. Now let's get back into the video. Now, before doing any type of exercise, it is important to warm up and stretch properly to prevent injury. Since the majority of calisthenics exercises are relying on your wrists and shoulders, I always make sure to properly warm them up before any type of upper body workouts. For my wrists, I like to do a series of wrist pulses with different hand positionings, and you should ease into these wrist stretches with short 1-second holds for 10 to 15 reps in each position. As you do these exercises, you should feel your wrists start to loosen up, and you should try to go deeper and deeper with each rep. You should make it your goal to be able to maintain at least 90 degrees of wrist extension comfortably, as it plays a big role in most calisthenics skills and exercises. As a beginner, your wrist flexibility may not be the best, but by doing these stretches before every session, you can improve it over time. Up next, we have shoulder dislocates, which helps you increase the range of motion of your shoulders and will help immensely for when you start skills such as the handstand and the back lever. To do this stretch, use a band or a stick and lock out your arms. Keep your core and chest tight and slowly bring the band over your head and behind you. Then reverse the movement. This movement should not be rushed and should take at least 5 to 8 seconds to complete one rep. To make the stretch easier, you can hold the stick or band wider, and as you slowly gain shoulder flexibility over time, you can make the grip narrower. The next stretch we have is a standing hamstring stretch, and it will increase your lower body mobility and flexibility, prepping you for skills such as the L-sit and the pistol squat. For this stretch, keep your back straight and exhale the air from your stomach, then slowly bend forward, maintaining a straight back, and reach down for 10 to 15 reps. As the hamstring starts to loosen up, you should try to reach lower and lower and perform a hold on the last rep. After the stretches, I also like to warm up further with easier progressional exercises based on what I'll be doing that day. For example, if you're going to be doing a push workout, you can simply do a few reps of knee push-ups or any progression that is easy to you. The purpose of warming up is to just get the blood flowing into your muscles and increase muscle elasticity. You should not be feeling tired or fatigued after your warm-up. While this is in no way a complete list of stretches that you can do, there are a few vital ones which you should implement into your normal stretching routine when training calisthenics. Now that you guys understand the importance of stretching and warming up, I'll be teaching you guys an exercise in each of those categories and movements mentioned earlier in this video. Starting off with horizontal pushing, we have one of the most versatile and foundational exercises in calisthenics, which is the push-up. To perform the push-up, place your hands a little over shoulder width apart and go into a plank position. Your core and glutes should be activated to prevent your hips from sagging. As you lower yourself, make sure your elbow does not flare out and aim to get your chest as close to the floor as possible before going back up. Another thing to keep in mind is to let your shoulder blades naturally retract backwards as you go down and then contract them as you come back up. Good scapula positioning in push-ups is often overlooked, but by properly retracting and protracting in your push-ups, it will help you maintain good shoulder health in the long run and also prep your scapula for skills such as a planche. To make the push-up easier for you, you can first start doing them on your knees, and when you get stronger, you can work your way up to an incline push-up, and finally a standard push-up. As you get better with the standard push-up, you can start increasing the difficulty by doing different variations. For example, placing your hands closer together will load more of your inner chest and triceps, while keeping the hands closer to your waist level will favor your interior deltoids. You can also play around with the tempo of your push-ups, such as increasing the time of the negative and also implementing isometric holds. This will help you target the specific range of motion where you're struggling the most. If you want to gain explosive strength, you can also do these variations of push-up explosively, but just remember to always control that negative, which is the lowering portion of the push-up. If you want to further increase the load of the push-up or fix any imbalances that you might have, archer push-ups are a great way to do so as they allow you to train each arm separately. For an extra layer of difficulty, all these variations of push-ups can also be done on the decline to put more load on your entire upper body due to gravity. Up next, we have a vertical pushing movement where you're pushing towards the floor, which is a dip. And a dip is the only beginner push exercise where you're supporting your entire body weight with your upper body, which is what makes it a staple in any good calisthenics routine. The dip can be performed on 2 P-bars, or if you don't have access to one, you can also use 2 chairs. To perform the dip, keep your core tight and fully extend out your arms, and also depress your shoulders so that your shoulders are as far from your ears as possible. And then slowly lower yourself and bend your arms until they are approximately at a 90-degree angle before going back up. If you have good shoulder mobility, you can also go slightly below 90 degrees, but don't overdo it as going too deep may lead to injury or shoulder pain. Now you should also notice the tempo of which I'm doing these dips. I'm always controlling the negative portion of the dip before trying to explode back up. Doing this will help you build fast twitch muscle fibers, which will increase your explosive power over time. And this rule will apply to most basic calisthenics exercises, so keep that in mind when you're doing them. Now, if you're struggling with dips, you can also do banded dips, and banded dips will help you reduce the load of the actual dip, and you can adjust the difficulty of it by either using a thicker band to make it easier or a thinner band to make it a little harder. And we also have negative dips where you'll be struggling the motion where you're struggling the most, and like all negatives, if you keep doing the negatives, you will eventually get the positive. Now, while dips will cover the strength building of vertical pushing in the downward position, we also have to train our vertical pushing strength in the overhead position. This can be done with the pike push-up, which is an earlier progression of the handstand push-up. To perform the pike push-up, get into a standard push-up position with your arms shoulder width apart. Then slowly bring both arms back and towards your legs. Now once you get into this position, make sure you elevate your scapula. Doing so will help you train the proper shoulder position during handstands and will increase the range of motion of the push-up. Now slowly descend and lean forward slightly, making sure you're not flaring your elbows out during the process. Once your nose is close to touching the floor, remember to apply the rule mentioned before and push up as explosively as possible. Once you reach the top, make sure you return your scapula to the elevated position before continuing the next rep. The difficulty of this exercise can be increased by moving your hands closer to your feet and vice versa. However, the closer your hands are to your legs, the more compression and hamstring flexibility you will need to maintain the pike position. Doing pike push-ups on the decline will help alleviate this issue, but will also increase the overall load on your upper body. As you get stronger, you can do pike push-ups on parallettes to increase the range of motion of the push-up. Increasing the angle of the decline will also increase the difficulty. One thing to keep in mind when you perform your pike push-ups is to note down your hand and hip position, as even a slight change can significantly increase or decrease the difficulty of the push-up. By keeping your form consistent, it prevents you from accidentally doing harder or easier variations of the exercise every workout, making it much easier for you to gauge your progress. Now up next, we have pole movements grouped into vertical and horizontal pulling. For vertical pulling, we have one of the best upper body exercises, which is the pull-up. Not only will mastering the pull-up open up a new world of skills for you, but it is also one of the best exercises for building a strong physique in calisthenics. To perform a pull-up, start from a dead hang with your hands slightly wider than shoulder width. Then pull up as explosively as possible. As you're pulling up, make sure to depress your scapula and maintain that depression. Your core should be activated to prevent any swinging during the pull-up. Once your chin clears the bar of a neutral head position, make sure to control the descent all the way down into a dead hang before starting your next rep. Neutral grip pull-ups are generally easier for most people, and it will help those who feel joint pain in their elbows. On the other hand, supinated grip will help you target your biceps more. However, I would recommend you master the pronated grip as it is the hardest of the three and will carry over strength needed for the other grip variations. Now, because we simply do not do much overhead pulling in our day-to-day lives, I find that most people struggle with pull-ups when they begin calisthenics. However, you can bridge this gap over time by doing progressional and supplemental pull-up exercises. When you're first starting out, dead hangs would be a great supplemental exercise to increase your grip strength, as many people's forearms give out before their back and bicep does. In addition to dead hangs, you can also implement scapular shrugs as it will increase your shoulder stability for pull-ups and also lead you on the right path for the front lever. Along with these supplemental exercises, you should also include progressional exercises such as the pull-up negative and the banded pull-up. By strengthening the eccentric range of motion with pull-up negatives, you will eventually gain enough strength to do the concentric portion of the pull-up. The negative pull-up can be started by either jumping or stepping up to the topmost portion of the pull-up, and then dropping down to a complete dead hang before starting your next negative. As most people struggle with the upper range of motion of the pull-up, you should also do isometric holds at the top as it will strengthen that specific area of motion. Band-assisted pull-ups are another great exercise to build up strength for pull-ups, as it allows you to practice the full range of motion of the pull-up with a reduced body weight. When doing band pull-ups, you should follow the same form cues as a normal pull-up, but try not to use the momentum generated from the band to cheat the pull-ups. Up next, we have horizontal pulling movements, which can be strengthened with inverted rows. To perform the row, place your hands shoulder width apart and extend your legs until they are in line with your body. You should also be engaging your core to prevent any swinging. As you pull up, make sure to retract your scapula and imagine pulling your elbows back rather than your arms. Try your best to keep your chest as close to the bar as possible before descending back into a passive hang with a scapular protraction. If you do not have access to a parallel bar, inverted rows can also be done on rings and under a stable table. Doing rows on rings will allow you to transition between grips during reps and reduce the stress on your wrists. You can decrease the difficulty of the inverted row by first doing them with bent legs, and increasing the height with the bar or rings will also make the movement easier. If normal rows are too easy, you can also do rows with elevated legs to make it harder. Similar to pull-ups, a supinated grip will have a larger bias on your biceps, while a pronated grip will put emphasis on your lats and forearms. Up next, we have core training. Now, contrary to popular belief, intensive core training is not necessary when doing calisthenics. This is because most calisthenics exercises are compound exercises, which rather utilizes your core in one way or another. Rather than having specific training days dedicated to core, it is sufficient to fit them into the end of your workouts once or twice a week. I would also like to be completely honest with you guys and say that ever since I've learned to hold an outfit, I have not specifically trained core to this day. Now, despite not actively training on core, it was not a limiting factor in my skill work, as most skill progressions already force you to use your core one way or another. In addition to this, I would also like to say that spamming core workouts will not give you visible six-pack abs, and I am tired of seeing those 5-minute ab workout videos on YouTube. While training abs may make them look slightly bigger, 90% of it comes down to your body fat. Everyone has abs, and it comes down to whether or not you have a low enough body fat for them to show. As a beginner, learning to be able to maintain an L-sit is a solid goal to have. This is because if you're able to maintain an L-sit hold, you will already have the core strength prerequisites for most advanced skills, such as a planche, handstand push-up, and front lever. To begin, hanging knee raises are a great exercise to build up the core strength needed for the L-sit. When doing the hanging knee raise, use a supinated grip with a width that is comfortable to you. Then lift your legs up in a controlled manner until you feel your abs contract before dropping down to the starting position. When doing the knee raises, make sure you're not cheating yourself by leaning backwards before each rep, and also maintain your core activation. In addition to this, your arms should be completely locked out throughout the whole movement. As you get better at knee raises, you can also extend your legs to the full L position at the top, and eventually get strong enough to complete the whole raise with extended legs. In addition to raises, you should also implement isometric holds where your legs or knees are parallel to the floor. This will help you specifically train the L-sit position and also gradually increase your hold time. Up next, we have seated pike lifts, which will strengthen your compression power, which is a major component in the L-sit. This exercise is a pretty intensive one, so don't get discouraged if it takes you a while to get. I'll provide you guys with different progression of variations, so don't rush the process and pick a variation for your current level. As compression strength is often neglected in calisthenics, training it early on will prevent roadblocks later down the line. To start, sit on the floor with legs extended in front of you, then place both hands to the side of you. From here, raise your legs up as high as you can while making sure your butt remains in contact with the floor. When doing this, make sure you're powering the movement with your hips and not rocking back and forth with momentum. Your legs should be locked out the whole time, and once you can no longer go any higher, lower them to the original position. As hamstring flexibility plays a big role in this exercise, I would highly encourage you also do hamstring stretches in between sets. The level of compression can be made easier by moving your hands back and harder by moving them forward. In addition to this, you can also lean back a little more to make it easier. Just make sure, as mentioned before, you do not rock back and forth. The difficulty can be further decreased by doing the raises one leg at a time to reduce the amount of core strength needed. With the L-sit training covered, we have one last exercise for core, which is a hollow body hold. The hollow body hold will help with static skills such as levers and handstands. It will also increase overall core stability. When performing the hollow body hold, make sure you're engaging your abs while maintaining a flat lower back. Extend your hands behind you and think of pressing your lower back against the floor while keeping both of your legs and shoulders off the ground. The difficulty of the hollow body hold can be decreased by shortening the leverage from your legs. Keeping your hands to the side of you rather than behind you will also shorten the leverage of your upper body, making the hold easier. If you find that the hollow body hold is too easy for you, you can also implement arm circles, which will increase the amount of stability needed, along with more core engagement. Up next, we have legs, which is one of the harder parts to train as our legs are already accustomed to our body weight from everyday usage. Because of this, the only way to put more load on them with pure body weight calisthenics is by training them unilaterally or by using different leverages. Both of these require a decent amount of flexibility and mobility, but don't worry, just like before, I will include easier progression exercises that you can follow along and use as stepping stones. Starting off with quad development, we have the pistol squat, and the pistol squat is a great exercise as it allows you to load your entire body weight onto one leg and will also help you improve your overall balance and stability. To perform the pistol squat, stand with your feet hip width apart and extend one leg out in front of you. Slowly lower yourself down on the other leg while keeping your back straight and your core engaged. You should try to lean your body weight towards the leg you're training with and also extend your arms out in front of you for balance. Once your thigh is parallel to the floor, push yourself back up to the starting position. If you find that your hamstring flexibility is limiting you, you can also first start doing single leg box steps. Eventually, as you gain flexibility and strength, you can extend your legs and hands out in front of you using a wall as assistance. The extent of which you extend your legs will also affect how hard the exercise is. The straighter you extend your legs, the more difficult the balance will be. In addition to this, doing pistol squats on an elevated surface can also help reduce the hamstring limitations, as it will allow your opposing leg to drop past horizontal. Next, we have the Nordic curl, which is an extremely intense hamstring exercise. As the concentric portion of the Nordic curl is extremely difficult even for elite athletes, we will mostly be focusing on the negative portion of the movement. To start, kneel down on a mat or soft surface with your feet anchored or under something. You can use a friend to hold you down, but if you don't have any friends, you can also use a stable couch or bed. Once you're anchored, slowly lower your upper body down to the ground while keeping your core engaged with your back straight. You should be using your hamstrings to control the negative and also try your best to lower down as controlled as possible. Once you reach the bottom, catch yourself with your hands, and from here, engage your hamstrings to curl back up using a push-up for assistance. If you find this exercise is too difficult, you can do it with a slight hinge at the hips. A larger hinge will reduce the leverage on your hamstrings, making the movement easier, while maintaining a straight hip position will make it significantly harder. In addition to this, the amount of power used to push up from the negative will also dictate how hard the movement will be. If you do not have a setup to do Nordic curls or find them too difficult, you can also do sliding hamstring curls as an easier progression exercise. This exercise requires a slider or a cloth on a smooth surface. Start by lying down on your back with your arms on the side of you for balance, and then elevate your hips and brace your core. Then with your feet on the sliders, slowly curl legs up towards your body, and once your feet are close to your body, extend them back out to the starting position. Similarly to a Nordic curl, the difficulty can be made easier by using more posterior pelvic tilt and vice versa. As your hamstrings get stronger, you can also eventually do the curl with one leg. Now to strengthen our calves, we have the single-legged calf raise. To perform a single-leg calf raise, stand on one leg with your hands on a wall or a stable object. Then slowly raise up into the ball of your feet while using your hands to stabilize yourself. When you get to the top, you should feel a stretch and hold it for 1 to 2 seconds. Then slowly lower yourself back down to the starting position. If performing them on one leg is too difficult, you can also first do them on both legs. And to increase the difficulty of the calf raise, you can do them on an elevated surface, and additionally perform a hold at the bottom of the eccentric before going back up. As a beginner, these bodyweight leg exercises are great for building leg strength. However, as you progress in your calisthenics journey and become stronger, you may want to consider incorporating weight and barbell exercises into your leg routine. This is because calisthenics leg exercises will only get you so far since you're limited to your own body weight, meaning you will easily plateau. If your goal is to build strong and defined legs, you will eventually want to add weight to these calisthenics leg exercises or switch it out completely for a weightlifting regimen. Now that you have a large collection of exercises under your belt, I will teach you guys how to program a routine to suit your current level. There are many ways of splitting your workout over the course of the week, each with its own unique benefits and drawbacks. The most common split is the push-pull leg split, which is what I utilize myself. As the name suggests, you're splitting your workout days based on whether the exercise you're doing is categorized as a pushing, pulling, or a leg movement. For this split, you would typically do 5 workouts throughout the week, and if you wish, the split can also be rearranged to your own schedule as long as you're leaving at least 1 or 2 days of rest between each category of movement. This split is great because you're only focusing on one type of movement per working day, allowing you to push harder and also have shorter individual workouts. The next split we have is a full body split, which is for those who do not have a lot of free time. For the split, you will be doing a full body routine 2 to 3 days out of the week, and while you're saving a lot of time with the split, it also has some drawbacks. Since you're training your whole body in one day, it is very common to not be able to push to your fullest, as you will accumulate fatigue due to the large number of sets you will have to do. In addition to this, you will most likely wake up the next day with your entire body feeling sore, so please keep that in mind. The next split that we have is what I like to call a scale split, which will extend past a week with blocks of time allocated to strength building, specificity, and deloading. This type of split is meant for more advanced athletes and is quite a long topic, so I will go more into detail about it in a future video. Now with that out of the way, let's also discuss the different styles of training in calisthenics. If your main goal is strength, then you should be training with high intensity, which means you should be doing harder exercises with less reps, around 1 to 5 reps, and longer rest times around 3 to 5 minutes. The other style of training is hypertrophy training, where you're training to build muscle mass. When training for hypertrophy, your workouts will have more reps per set with shorter rest times, typically around 8 to 12 rep sets with 1 to 3 minutes of rest in between sets. However, it is important to note that while both of these training styles promote muscle growth, training purely for hypertrophy will not help you gain strength efficiently. Later down the line, you may want to distinguish the two depending on your own goals, but as a beginner, it is best to have a good mix of both strength and hypertrophy training in your routine to ensure that you progress smoothly and maximize your results. This can be done by mixing varying levels of exercises into your routine and also trying out different rep ranges. And now when it comes to creating your own routine, you should be implementing exercises from all the different types of movement we mentioned earlier in this video. For example, if you're creating your push routine, you should be including exercises from both the horizontal and vertical movement category. This will ensure that the strength you gain is well-rounded and also prevent any hiccups when training for skills later down the road. And here I have a list of all the exercises that we mentioned in this video in order of increasing difficulty, so you can easily plug them into this template or use them in your own personalized routine. Now here's a template for a push, pull, and leg workout which you can follow or use as guidance when creating your own routine. After properly stretching and warming up, you will start off with sets of a higher intensity exercise, which will ramp down later on into easier progressions to ensure that you get an adequate amount of volume. By completing the more challenging progressional exercises in the beginning of your workout, when your energy levels are the highest, you can focus on building strength towards the next progression. After that, you will move on to a less intense progressional exercise with a higher rep range, followed by any accessory work for the corresponding exercise. Whether you choose to do accessory work here will depend if you're struggling with an exercise or with a specific portion of an exercise. For example, if you find yourself struggling getting to the top through pull-ups, you may want to do some isometric holds in the upper portion. As for the rest times, aim to be resting around 3 to 5 minutes for more challenging sets, as these will need more effort and require more time for your muscles to recover. For the less intense sets, resting for 1 to 3 minutes should be sufficient. However, if you feel like you cannot complete a quality set in the provided rest times, it is okay to rest a little longer as long as you stay under the 5-minute range. As you get stronger, it is important to progressively overload your workouts and make them harder so you can continue to grow stronger and gain muscle. With normal weightlifting, this can be done by simply increasing the weight you're using, but with calisthenics, you do this by training more difficult exercises and or by increasing your reps and sets. A general rule of thumb is that once you reach around 10 to 12 reps of an exercise, it would be safe to increase the difficulty of it by doing a harder progressional exercise. In the case of the beginner template shown here, you will replace the 5 to 8 rep progressional exercise with a more challenging progressional exercise once you hit the 10 to 12 rep range. The previous challenging progression exercise would then be replaced with a harder progression exercise. On a complete side note, I would also recommend that beginners record the sets when starting a new skill or exercise. When I first started calisthenics, I remember doing exercises completely wrong for a couple of months before someone finally pointed it out to me. By watching your recordings, you can identify areas for improvement and make adjustments early on in your training rather than waiting until later on when bad habits are more difficult to break. Now, as you progress in your calisthenics journey and begin to focus on skill training, having a solid foundation of strength and control and basic movements is crucial. While there's no set number of reps that will automatically qualify you for skill training, it's important to have a certain level of strength to properly perform the movements. As a general guideline, a good goal to have before starting skill training is to be able to comfortably perform at least 20 push-ups, 12 pull-ups, and 15 dips. This will ensure you perform skills safely and with proper form, and will also set you up for success as you progress to more advanced moves. In the future, I will be releasing more in-depth guides about skill training along with skill tutorials, so stay tuned. And that about sums it all up. I've tried my best to include everything I've learned throughout my years of training calisthenics, along with things I wish I knew when I first started as a beginner. And once again, thank you so much for the massive amount of support you guys have been giving me. And the journey ahead will be a long one, but please just stay consistent and patient with yourself. And it will only be a matter of time before everything falls into place. Peace.